just a bloke in a bar.
What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to another episode of the DMP, but a different DMP. It's a Levels bloke DMP this week. That's right. Hello, Sport. Tom and Eddie. Late notice, a partner, some work with a partner of their podcast came up, so they were unable to do it today. So we thought we'd get the great Sir Scopius in here. How you going, brother?
Good, Kempy. I did my best work off the pine, mate. So whenever you need someone to come on, bring a little bit of impact. You know what I was thinking on the way in here, actually, because the boys are missing, and I've jumped on at the start of the year, jumping on again today. We need the dirtiest of the dirtiest mergers.
Oh, yeah.
So maybe, I know Tommy has a sickie every now and again. He's catching it from the kids at daycare and whatnot. Maybe me, you, Eddie.
Absolutely.
Just a tripod of a merger.
Just a merger of just disgusting, dirty podcasts.
Or if Tom wants to be there and Eddie can't make it, whoever it may be. But good to be here, mate. Thanks for having me.
Mate, it's great to have you. It's great to have you. Don't forget, guys, brought to you by Good Day. Make sure to grab some Good Day. I actually got my new, I subscribed to Good Day. I got my new box literally yesterday and also had it this morning. So the good stuff. Also brought to you by Bloke Beer, the beer of rugby league. The beer, Aussie Spirit in a can, beer for blokes that turn up. Get in your local, grab a case of Bloke Beer. Absolutely beautiful. And don't forget, in a few weeks, we're having an absolutely massive merch drop. You want to stay tuned. Get your little shekels, put them aside, because trust me, this drop is going to be big. It might be one of my favourite drops ever. It is something to be excited for. So that's going to be happening in a few weeks. So make sure to put just a little aside to be ready for that. Well, what's been going on at Levels, mate?
Not too much, mate. Getting into the footy season, obviously it's starting to pick up. It's been very hard to predict the footy season, but highly entertaining. Me and the big fellow are going well. We do a preview every week, staying consistent at that, and that's how we've been going. The big fella's got his 20th. So we filmed our podcast this morning as well. He's got his 20th anniversary for Dogs versus Roosters grand final.
No way.
Tomorrow night. So
that won't be very loose.
He's got a long lunch today.
Holy.
That will finish on Saturday.
Oh, my God. And also when you go through the playing roster, there's blokes that rip and tear on both sides.
I asked him a question on the potty today, before I was going, like, who's someone undercover, like who you got to watch out for on, these big occasions when you haven't seen everyone forever, someone's going to go loose. He goes, mate, Bobcat can sink a schooner with the best of them.
Wow.
He'll pump all four of these tinnies right in front of me, I think, during the potty. So yeah, he loves a schooner. Had a great team. It was a bit of similar to the conditions that we're going to be dealing with this weekend. Remember the grand final? Super wet.
Yep.
Heaps of errors, but the Clive Churchill medalist, Big Willie Mason, he'll be fired up. He is probably 23 minutes away from his first schooner, I reckon.
Oh, wow.
With the boys.
I mean, if you win, he's got to repeat history. You win Clive in the grand final, you got to win Clive on the day as well, surely.
He'll definitely be still going by Saturday. 100%.
Oh, I love to hear that.
Monday should be fun. It'll be a fun podcast.
Oh, because you'd actually rather it be Sunday, because Sunday's that weird day where you're still kind of drunk and whatever. It's actually Monday where you just start crashing, hitting the wall.
Yeah. It hits a little bit harder, but he does such a good job. He's so piss fit.
Oh, really?
Yeah. He doesn't even have to go, like, he can go 4 weeks without touching anything, not be on the piss, not have a schooner. Then he can rattle together and have a big one like he did in Vegas, or we've done a race day, and the next day he's on, he's alert.
You don't win a Clive without a good look. I'd almost be offended if a 2004 grand final winner Clive couldn't drink piss.
Yeah.
I mean, today, this day and age, you can get away with it. It's like, you know what? If you're
modern day player,
it's fine. But if you're a Dogs of War representative, I think you got to be able to handle your
Dogs
piss.
of War on and off the field.
Oh yeah. Don't forget, guys, menu log code reminder. Hungriest player this week was Roger Tuivasa-Sheck. $7 off pizza this week with code RTS. So all you need to do is RTS, and you get $7 off pizza, which is incredible. Also, a Musashi reminder. Use code BLOKE35 to get 35% off Musashi products, excluding bundles. But the biggest news of the week so far, Zac Lomax. Dragons have made it official that they will grant him a release at the end of the season. It was reported, Daily Telegraph, he met with the Eels. What do you reckon about this one?
Sort of disappointed for the Dragons. I think they've shown signs. He's looked really good on the wing in the first 4 weeks. Everything's up across the board from stats wise. But I've always said this all along. For me, it was less about the position switch and more about the perceived demotion of the position switch with Zachy. He seems like I don't know him that well, but I just feel like for him moving from the centres to the wing, despite maybe, I think in this day and age it not being all that different, or
wingers are more even sometimes.
Probably have more an effect on the game these days. So I understand it from both camps. Zac's obviously looking for a new home. I think there's a part of me that thinks he's maybe just using this as a reason to get out of the club. It's been reported that he's sort of been unhappy now for a while. He might just be due a change. And Flano probably can't afford to be playing a winger, 800,000, if that's how he views him long term, or sort of what the situation would be like long term at the Dragons. So it's one of those moves. It could be like the Brooks and Tigers. It could just be a marriage that had to have a divorce, but both can still flourish in different opportunities.
Yeah, I'm not so sure, and I don't know for sure, but I'm not so sure that this is purely from Zac Lomax's end. I think the club has kind of been probably the last 12 or so months looking at that contract, the size of it, and going, are we really getting our bang for buck here? And I think also Lomax has been looking at going, am I really developing the way I should be developing? Yeah. So I think that this is a mutual thing. I highly doubt. I know it's been positioned that Lomax has pushed for it in this last few months, but as you know, in clubland, like that's usually what is the agenda that's pushed, that the club is always the one that's doing the right thing. I think this is a really mutual thing. I really do. I think Lomax is probably sitting there going, you know what? I am a really talented player. I haven't played, he's playing some of his best footy now, but I haven't probably played my best footy in quite a while. The Dragons are sitting there going, mate, you're on a massive wicket, and unfortunately, they don't see him as a fullback. Also, with rebuilding a roster, should you be spending $800K on a winger if you're trying to rebuild a roster? Probably not. You're probably going to have to go overs in your front row and your spine, especially if you don't see him as a fullback. And so I actually think this is exactly what you just said. Similar to the Brooksy situation, it's like, you know what? I think it's better for both parties. I really do.
Tinfoil hat to your first point about how the Dragons have sort of looked at this number. Do you think a part of Flano moving him to the wing is knowing that he'd be
100%?
Yeah, frustrated on the wing.
There were already whispers before the preseason started last year. There were whispers that he was getting shopped around.
Yeah,
reports in that.
Yeah,
I do think it was part of the, like, even the sitting down with a bloke and going, you're the 24th best centre in the comp or whatever, but so we're going to play you on the wing. Just everything suggests to me that the Dragons are happy with this.
Yes.
Everything suggests to me, were the Dragons really trying to make this work? And also, was Zac Lomax really trying to make this work? Because all you have to do is go look at how much the Dragons made the Benny Hunt situation work. They got publicly almost disrespected.
And they're even now it's going to come back. It's going to resurface about him being unsettled for sure.
Yeah, and so look how hard the Dragons fought tooth and nail to get Benny Hunt to stay at the club.
Yeah,
they're not fighting at all for this. They've gone pretty public. I don't even think we've seen a quote from Lomax other than basically, I would want to play centre, but I'm going to do whatever I need to do for the team. I actually don't think we've seen a quote from Lomax saying I want out of here or anything like that. So I think it's a mutual situation. I'd be very surprised if this has just been purely from Lomax going to them going, I want to leave, and them going, nah, we want to keep you. I don't think that. But in regards to where he lands, where do you think is going to be the best position for him? And also, do you think he's going to need to take a pay cut?
Yep, pay cut. I don't think I think a lot of the clubs will be monitoring the situation, in particular with the favourite, which seems to be Parramatta Eels.
Yep.
I think if you believe what was in the media, they've expressed interest in him for a while now. I guess they were unwilling to give up a top tier player to get him straight off the bat, but if they can get him without losing a player on a reasonable contract, and I'd say reasonable for him. Now, I feel like if they could potentially get him on a contract which would seem like value now, but potentially be unders down the road if they were to get him anywhere between that 500 to 650 mark.
Yeah, I think so.
Because he's super versatile, he can cover so much. Like now, the position that they've been trying to fill now for the last couple of years is the centre position opposite Will Penasini. So are one of them happy to move because he prefers the right? That's a question that I guess, would have been addressed yesterday with the meeting that was had with Brad Arthur. Another team that I like for him, if he's willing to sort of go to a team with potential rather than a team that's probably more established, like the Parramatta Eels, is the West Tigers.
Him and Olam in the centres.
Yeah, you got Juzzy Olam on the left. He can go to the right. And he loves his flick pass.
Yep.
Benji Marshall's the OG.
He is the OG.
So he wouldn't take the licence away from him.
Oh, no way. He'd be giving him the licence.
3 or 4 a game minimum.
He'd literally walk in the doors and go, mate, here's your flick pass licence.
0 push effective supports. I just want flick passes as part of my stats that I'm going to tick off.
Matter of fact, out of dummy half, I don't want an all pass, I want a flick pass.
Around the back from the right side. Who's the junior Tupa? He's going to the Dolphins, so he won't be there next year.
Yep.
Whoever the winger is, just flick around, me come around, boom.
Love
Out the
that.
back.
Love that.
Yeah, no, but I generally think Tigers got plenty of upside. I like what we've seen out of the Tigers to begin with. Those two teams probably make the most sense for me for Zac Lomax.
Do you think the Dragons have almost shot themselves in the foot by going public that he can be released after this year? Because now they're guaranteed they're not getting anyone for him.
Depends. Yeah, I just think
if they had have played hardball and said, nah, we're not letting him go, a club may have been willing to go, you know what, in 2025 we'll swap a player for you. Now there's not a single club in the NRL that's going to give a player for him.
Yeah. I think they've probably done their due diligence now for 3 or 4 months, like you're saying.
Yeah.
And they've figured out that they're not going to get a player. So what it does now, it gives them the freedom to go sign segment 2.
Yeah.
So for those who can't see segment 2, there's a player that we're about to talk about.
Yeah.
And once you got the freedom of knowing that that's definitely off your books, then you can actually, rather than try to predict a swap or try to work on a swap, all right, we know we definitely got this allocated to a player.
Yeah.
We can have that conversation with what we've got. So I think it works out well for both of them.
Well, reportedly,
so early in the season, Zach can, he can have his team done in the next 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah, absolutely. And reportedly they've got $3 million in the cap next year, the Dragons.
Oh, well, so they're sorted regardless.
Yeah, so which suggests that they're finally through their cap woes. Because remember the list that was released I think it was like maybe 2 years ago or a year and a half ago? It was like, I think it was like they had the most people in the top 20 like earners.
Good,
and yes, it's
good mate of ours, Mudders Norman, was taking up a fair whack of that. Hey? I was living with him at the time. He was on overs.
Now, just a smoky chat. Could the Roosters land him?
Ooh.
Manu Suoli'i gone.
Yep. Yeah, that's another. He just. It sounds like a Roosters signing, doesn't it?
It would be very Roosters.
It would be a very Roosters signing. They lose Joseph Suaalii. Yeah, Billy Smith prefers to play left, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Zach on the right. Who else is coming through the grades? I know they've got Jenko and waiting, who's returned.
I think it's Toa. His name's Toa. Goes
okay.
all right. Robert Toa, maybe. Could you just check that?
I'll check it, but Trent Robertson got quoted 2 hours ago saying, we've got the centres we want. We still need to add a couple of outside backs, but not in that price range. We're not going after Lomax.
Not in that price range, interesting.
Doesn't completely rule it out.
Yeah, so we're not going after Lomax, not in that price range.
Yeah.
If you just said you weren't, you'd just probably go, we're not going after Lomax.
We're not interested. So
that's interesting.
That's negotiating through the media.
I think so. By letting him know, mate, if you want to come here, you're coming on unders massively.
Yeah.
Which if I'm Lomax,
500 mark, more the floor rather than the ceiling for Lomax.
Mate, if I'm Lomax, I'd consider going there for 2 years.
Yeah.
Four for 2 years. He's how old is he now? 24, 25. You have 2 of the best years of your life, like career-wise, and then you sign the big dog contract after that.
Like the Morris boys sort of going at the back end of their career. I know it's different, like Lomax is still young, but he could do, like those boys had so much success at the back end of their careers.
How much it helped their legacy as well, going to the Roosters.
Yeah, winning a couple of comps.
And so, if you're Lomax, I'd genuinely consider going to the Roosters for 4 to 5. Yeah. 5 at the high end.
Brett definitely won a comp with them, mate. Did Josh win a comp or not?
I don't think Josh
did. No, Josh didn't.
But Brett did.
Brett did.
19?
Yeah.
2019, he was one of the best players in the GF. He kept diffusing all those
That's right.
bombs.
Yep.
Robert Toya. And Lomax is 24.
He's 24. Fuck.
Yeah, he could do a hit and run there.
I reckon you're going under.
Go there, kill it.
And then
and he's 24. He's 25 like later in the year. So he's pretty young.
Mate, he's been around for a minute.
Feels like he's been around forever.
Yeah.
So he's got so long, and that's why I go, you don't want to. This is the chance to take unders to try and develop as a player. Whereas you don't want to go, you know what, I'm going for a big contract somewhere else, keep slugging it out and not developing as you should be developing. and then you get to 20, let's say 26, 27, all of a sudden clubs go, you're not really that young guy that we're willing to take a punt on anymore. You've been here for a few years now. So, yeah, I mean, I wonder if that is an interesting quote. We're not going for someone in that price range, but we need outside backs.
Doesn't rule it out, does it?
That keeps it very open, I think. Now, this next bloke. So you're thinking Turuva potentially to the Dragons.
Yeah, it makes sense if they're gonna. I didn't realise they had that much cap room, so they probably could have been having these conversations regardless. But he's a player with massive potential that you'd be signing to the club with the mindset of that he could potentially play fullback as well. Because I actually think he's a better fullback just from some of the stuff that I've seen early on, specifically how well he played for Fiji against Papua New Guinea the first time I saw him play anyway. And my old boy, having a little bit to do out there in the Penrith junior system, said his best position is a fullback.
Okay, what's his ball playing like?
It's okay. It's okay, but you look at like guys like Hamiso and Jerome Buller.
Edwards.
They're not necessarily the best ball players, are they? But they're always on the ball. They're always, super fit. I think defensively, he seems pretty vocal.
Yep.
He seems like a vocal guy, which is really important in the modern game as fullback. So, worst case, you potentially go after him, and worst case, he plays on the wing, and he's one of the elite wingers in the competition. The way he's looked at the Penrith team for the last couple of years, or best case, he puts some pressure on, and you have a genuine competition between him and Sloan to fight out for that fullback position. I
guess it's a tough one for the Dragons because if you've just got rid of a guy on 800k on the wing, why would you go out and buy a guy for, we'll just say 700k to sit him on the wing? So I'd assume you'd have to be thinking that if they're going to pay the big bucks for Turuva, it's got to be for fullback, surely.
Yeah, it would be. Yeah, because I think from the reports that I'm getting out of Penrith is the offers like much lower than what near almost half, and they just can't afford it. It's been proven now over the last couple of years they continually lose good players just because they're top heavy with their stars that they've got there already in the junior system. So a team might not even have to pay 7 to get in. Maybe it's closer to the 5-6 mark.
Maybe,
and then that'd be value if you
got him to the Tigers in a sentence.
Same thing. Yeah, Tigers. A few of those teams with younger outside backs. Comes over with Jerome. Sort of take the Bulldogs mentality. Start recruiting all the Panthers players that they can't keep in the cap. It makes a bit of sense. I think he's probably more suited to a full-time fullback.
Yeah,
there's some good young fullbacks coming through at the moment that aren't getting week in, week out first grade, like looking up at Tristan Saylor up at the Broncos.
Mate, how he was even considering going to Super League blows my mind. What is going on there that a guy as good as him is even consider going to the Super League?
Yeah.
Bizarre. If I'm the Raiders, I've said it a million times, mate, I'm throwing the book at Tristan Saylor. Yeah. Not whatever he wants, but a pretty decent chunk to get a high-quality fullback at that club that is desperate for one. I know Chevy
Stewart. They like Chevy Stewart.
Yep. But I mean, Tristan's done it in first grade, and he's silky, very silky. With Turuva, it's just I think the disappointing thing for him is going to be almost so Critter. He won those 3 comps in a row, so he's almost kind of fulfilled as much as you'd kind of need to fulfill as an NRL player to a degree. Turuva is 2 now, I think.
No, 1. Charlie Staines played in place of Taylor May in the second one.
Okay, so 1. So you'd have to think it's probably going to sting Turuva to go to a struggling club more than it would sting Critter. Yeah, if you know what I mean.
It'd be more similar to Birdo's situation when he went after 1.
Yeah, and so you've got that 1 premiership, and so you go to this club that's struggling. Whereas Critter, he's already done what he did with Samoa. He's already had I know Critter's super young. He's 22 still, something like that.
Yeah.
But 3 comps, it's
yeah.
You've experienced it so many times. Whereas if you do 1 comp, you always want that second one. So I wonder how he will handle the fact that you're going from the absolute GOAT team to a potentially struggled team. Do you reckon Roosters could have a crack at him?
Yeah, same thing. Yeah, all those teams, all the similar teams were looking for these are the players that are sort of left out on the market now. Like, and this for me is an indication of the priority position of the outside backs and centres and wingers where we're at right now with that position.
Yeah.
Hardly any good front rowers are available. Hardly any good halves are available. The positions with talent at it are most likely going to be, and that become available, are going to be centres and wingers because you can't afford to play those sorts of players big money and allocate a decent amount of cap to your priority position. So there will be teams that pay. Like you look at the Bulldogs situation, Crichton got good money to go there and play centre, and good on him. Critter, Jerome, and Appy in particular are the perfect example of being there. You know, Appy's won a couple of competitions because he won at South as well. Remember
he
so
won
not only
three,
at Penrith, so he won 2 at Penrith, one at South. So he's got 3. Jerome's got 3. No matter what, Critter got 3. No matter what, like the decision's still not super easy for those guys. But when you throw that in, it makes it just a touch easier. To move on. But Turuva, I could see him potentially extending for maybe one more year. Trying to get a couple before he goes on and gets a massive payday. Because again, go back to the age thing. 22, 23, still young enough to go and get a big deal a couple of years later.
Yeah, I agree. I could see him maybe extending for massive unders just for one more year.
Yeah.
And then the tough thing is obviously there are good managers out there. There are, but the problem with like the way the manager system is set up is they're not incentivized by the same thing. Like as a player, yes, you're incentivized by money, but a lot of these players would play rugby league anyway, so they're incentivized by winning comps, playing good footy, winning footy games. Whereas a manager is usually incentivized by the biggest contract.
Yep, money straight away.
Money straight away. Like, does a manager really care that much if his player wins a comp? I mean, I'm sure there are managers out there that do, but most managers, their number one priority is, I don't care if he wins a comp his whole career. I just want him earning as much money as possible for as long as possible.
Depends on their roster, and this is for managers as well. Like, can they play the long game and understand the benefits of it?
Yeah.
If you've got just say you don't have a shitload of stars on your roster, and you're getting a deal now that I don't know who manages through, by the way.
But we're not talking specifically about Turuva.
Whatever player it may be. If you've got a roster full of maybe up and comers or a couple of journeymen, where this is the biggest deal you're going to get. Like, there's a world in which I can see a manager going, take it.
Yep.
But maybe you've got a few established stars, and you look and you go, hey, chill.
Yeah.
Next year we're going to get
big stuff.
Yeah, we can get it. You can win a couple of comps, and you can help me out negotiate an extra 100, 200 on the back end.
Yeah, it's I can't wait to see what happens there. All we know is that it's almost beyond a shadow of a doubt now. Penrith's ability to replace players is just like. I honestly can't remember the last time. Well, it hasn't happened because they've won 3 comps in a row, really. And I understand before the NRL era that happened, back, was it the 80s or something like that? Or whenever. But just every year you're going, okay, they lost Birdo, mate, Dalian centre. They lost Kickout, like Dalian back rower, and Appy, Coruscant, but they just churn it through.
Spencer. I didn't think they were going to. I thought they were going to struggle with at the back end of halves or in that middle period of the games. Not only did they lose Spencer, Fish hasn't even played most of the games, and they're still not losing anything. Liam Henry looks like a younger, angrier version of Liam Martin. What do they just keep developing these players?
It's actually insane.
It's the culture. And this is the way we used to talk about Melbourne, and this is why Melbourne was tough playing against. And they sort of do it in a different way, where they played like a money ball system after they had their elite players, because they didn't have the junior development. But you'd see journeymen go there and go, play against you. You weren't that guy 2 years ago. What happened? Why are you playing like this now? Because they buy into the culture, and they know that there's runs on the board, and they've seen it work before in the past, so it's easy to buy in. If you're a young kid there, it's easy to buy into that.
Yeah.
Because you've watched it on TV. Even if you weren't a part of the Panthers junior development, like most of them are, you're still watching it on TV going,
it's worth buying into. The sacrifice is worth it. Funny, I was at a business, not class, school for the Roosters. So it's basically just it's businesses that are involved with the Roosters, and it's just a dinner. And I was at that last night, and Cooper Cronk was there talking, and he spoke about basically the way himself, Smithy, and Slater would kind of look at their roles in the team was if they could just influence 3 players each, then you're looking at essentially a whole footy side of players that have been influenced directly by them and their standards that they set.
Yeah.
And it's like, it is such a like simple, stripped back way to look at it, but it's actually so powerful. Like rather than looking at the big picture of like, oh, we better influence, 45 different players that come to a preseason at day one. We just need to each do a minimum 3 people, because then they'll influence people, then they'll influence people. And that's
Did you immediately, so I started thinking about the players that they're influencing straight off the bat?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I was just like, it's just so smart and a simple way, and a very manageable reality rather than going, oh yeah, every single year we've got to rock up and do some inspirational speech that inspires 45, a squad of 45 or a squad of 40. It's more just focusing on like, if we just get 3 blokes that fully buy in, it's just like a knock-on effect.
Love that.
So yeah, also great night at the Roosters business dinner. It was a really good night. Great feed. Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah, they're going to put on a good spread, don't they?
Absolutely. It was at is it Ukochi or something like that? At Ivy Bar.
Oh, okay. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Beautiful stuff. Felt very weird being on stage with Cooper Cronk though.
Yeah.
Should have been illegal, to be honest.
Yeah, I was going to say, I thought there's going to be 4 seats sit up there at the top. I picture you, Pearce, Nick Politis and Cooper Cronk, all very established Roosters stars, part of the DNA of the Roosters.
Cooper Cronk's like resume is just like, and then I'm a 40-game winger.
Killing it, mate. Well done.
Far out. Okay, Mitch Pearce. The Eels reached out to Mitch Pearce to see if they can sign him for the rest of the season. Pearce said, whatever's going on there at Para, I'm not sure. I did get reached out to, which I was taken back a bit, being a retired player and not having much training on my belt. To be honest, I haven't been following them that closely other than watching the footy each week. Obviously, they're struggling for a bit of depth there, but I would have thought I'd be the last option for them. Mate, Mitchy Pearce, give yourself some credit, brother. Funnily enough, take aside the fact that he hasn't trained and he's retired. You just take that out. I actually love it.
Yeah.
I actually think Mitch Pearce with a full preseason at the Eels would have been outstanding.
Those quotes just something like that was highly entertaining to us. I watched that episode with Matty and Cooper, and just seeing that dynamic the first time you see that was a really good conversation between the two. It's just typical of Pearcey. That's why everyone loved playing with him.
Yeah.
I was lucky enough to be a part of the start of his journey in the under-20s. He's a 17-year-old playing in our under-20s team, so he was always going to be a star.
Yeah.
And he was team first, and he was humble, and he was just like, it's why everyone loves him. There's even, I know there was times that he went through, in particular with New South Wales and New South Wales fans and the criticism he copped around that period. But they love him at the Chooks. I had a chat to Connor Watson on SEN the other week, and he presented Jared with his 300th jersey.
Oh, no way.
That shows how highly he's thought of at the club to come back and present Jared the jersey. And he's being humble. And Matty was trying to say it too on the show.
Yeah. Mate.
Because he knew what Drew was going to say as well.
Yeah, because he's so humble.
But Drew could step onto the field tomorrow, I guarantee it, and be a top 10 halfback.
Yeah, better than most halfbacks in the comp.
Top 10. Now, without no training.
Yeah.
He's 3 months removed from a preseason or the end of the season where he played in the grand final, and it's different levels, and he said all that shit because that's who he is.
Yeah.
But I look at some of the depth in the position at the moment, at the halves position in particular, and if he actually legitimately become available, there might be 6 teams that are going, would love to take you. And it was reported that, obviously Benji and the Tigers had a crack at the back end of last season to try to convince him to, come out of retirement. But he seems happy. He seems like he's in a good place. And the one part I took out of it, there was he spoke, and you'd know this, Kempy, too, with whatever decisions you make, specifically with footy, it's not until you go and watch a game live or you watch your first game into retirement that you go, all right, I'm happy with where I am. And I thought that was pretty much the answer for me. That pretty much answered it for me, because I could tell Drew was content with watching a game of footy, because that's the hardest part.
Yeah, getting back
you can watch it on
footy.
TV. If you go to the stadium, see the boys warming up, it's like,
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't know if it's most footy players, but a lot of footy players I speak to, the year or two after they quit, they don't watch any footy because they're just like, I don't want to look at it, I don't want to watch it. Me personally, it took me a few years to actually fully get back into it.
Yeah,
I didn't even. Same. It wasn't like I'd watch it and get emotional or anything. It was just like, I'm just done. I want to be away from it.
Take a breath.
And take a breath.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I don't even want the chance of looking at something that I might miss and like get that feeling of like, should I have done this? Should I have done that? But yeah, being humble, man, because as I agree with you, mate, he'd be a top 10 half if he jumped back on the field. Give him a 4 weeks of training. Imagine him with Dylan Brown for a few weeks. Oh, stop it.
It'd be so good.
The famous Para jersey, number 7.
Yeah, it'd be weird to see Pearce in an Eels jersey. That's the only concern. But like him in a Knights jersey always looked a bit weird to me as well. Just because, once I'd come through with him.
He is Roosters.
When we started training together, it was 2005. He was wearing that jersey as a under-20s player. So I saw him as a lifelong Rooster. So it was weird to see him play anywhere else, especially in the NRL.
Let us know in the comment section, what's the weirdest jersey on a player that you can remember where you've gone, that is not right. That is not right.
Adam Reynolds on Broncos.
That one still works, matey.
I got to admit, Petro in Panthers gear.
Petro.
That was very weird for me. Yeah.
Foz in Para gear was weird.
That was weird. Yep, Foz in Para.
Chock the same year. They just both went over together. Chock and Foz in Anthony Watmough and Kieran Foran in Para gear. That's weird.
Yep.
That looked weird as fuck.
But yeah, let us know in the comment section where the weirdest one where you've gone, what the hell is going on here? This is bizarre. Because it's weird. Some players can they're like, come in.
Some suit it. Yeah. And like Nico looks like he's a shark for life.
Yeah, 100%. He suits it. He's sharky. He was born in the Shire. He reps I totally
whereas Matty John's in a Sharks jersey, you're like, what the hell's that?
Matty was a bit weird too. Yeah.
Let us know in the comment section, weirdest jersey. Don't forget, you can watch all of 8 of these games we're about to preview on KO Sports. Plus, there's so much content to consume, including some of our content that we did in the boxing lead up. So head to KO, make sure to sign up. All this footy you can ever want, plus a bunch of shows as well. Basically, the one place you can get the most rugby league content, it's KO. So make sure to sign up if you haven't. Let's get into some previews, shall we? Storm v the Broncos tonight, 8 p.m. Munster, he's expected to play. Obviously, huge boost. Hughes and Christian Welsh are also back on deck. No late changes expected. Broncos, no late change expected with Ben Tekora to come off the bench for his NRL debut alongside Corey Oates, who retains his role in the forwards. Martin Tapua is 18th man. In just regards to Corey Oates, Hunt is still starting because Pia Cora is still out, correct?
Yep.
So, yes, he's not necessarily become the starting or the backup back row. I think at the moment it's almost like it's forced Brisbane's hand to put him there to see how it will go.
Bit of a hybrid, eh? It's a nice position to be in as a Broncos fan, to have that luxury of having a guy that can play back row and wing.
As well, if you're Corey Oates, to get back in this side, it's either going to be injury or it's going to be through your utility value. Because Dean Mariner and Arthurs are killing it.
Yeah.
Killing it on the wing.
Yeah, they're going really well.
How do you see this game playing out?
Yeah, I have a feeling this is going to be a real arm wrestle. Both these two teams have been impressive. I don't take much out of the Storm loss before to the Knights. I still feel like with the outs that they had, that Knights probably should have beat them by more, realistically, and they put up a good fight without missing a whole heap of players. Got slightly worried about the Broncos a couple of weeks ago, but they completely crushed that with the performance against the Cowboys. The Storm won't complete at 61%, so it's not going to be like the Cowboys game. I feel like this is going to be a low-scoring affair, very hard to pick. I think the line's about right. I've sort of been going around that favouritism towards the Storm. But the big question mark is Cam Munster. Yeah. There's been so many questions in and around his injury for 3 or 4 weeks now. Yeah. And there hasn't been optimism from anyone within the camp that he's legitimately playing. Yeah. So I'm not going to believe it until I see it. Yep. But if he plays and he's 90%, then I like the Storm just.
Yeah. It's going to be the tough thing for the Broncos is they were outstanding last week, but there's always that question in the back of your mind. Were the Cowboys just terrible?
They were awful, mate.
They were so bad. So it's did the Broncos force that with their pressure, their kicking game? Is that what happened? Or did the Cowboys just turn up and play shockingly? So it's going to be a real good test for the Broncos to kind of see where they're really at.
Yep.
Because when you really look at it, they lost to Roosters round 1.
Yep.
Lost to who they lost to round 2.
No, they won round 2. They
beat Rabbitohs.
Yep.
They lost to Panthers quite significantly.
Yep.
Granted, there were players missing. Then they go out and beat a Cowboys that played pretty bad. So there's no real result there for the Bronx. And obviously Rabbitohs aren't a top 8 side right now. So it's very hard for a result to hang your hat on at the moment for Broncos.
Yeah.
And like this is a result you can hang your hat on. Obviously they're missing Haas, they're missing Walsh, massive outs. But it's a really good opportunity. It's not even about winning. It's just about a game of 80 minutes where you can go, oh, we're still here. We're still where we need to be right now. So whether it's like 24-20 and you've done, played pretty well, I think that's Broncos' goal for this should be mainly just about 80 minutes of high quality footy. Obviously they want to win, but I'm picking the Broncos, obviously. But that'll be my main goal for the Broncos, I think.
Yeah, it's a tough form line with the Broncos. Just the Panthers game in particular, because you lose Reece Walsh and it completely throws things out. But the week before, you seen Parramatta lose Bailey Simonson, had a reshuffle, still hang in that game, and they didn't completely get blown out the way that the Broncos did. So that was my concern with the Broncos. But like I said, completely
without Renault, without Haas, Haas is gone as well.
And you're right, with the kicking game last week, Ren put on a masterclass. He showed exactly why you pay top-tier halves that sort of money, played conditions, and then didn't go away from it.
Yeah.
I think sometimes there are teams and players and individuals that get bored with shit that works.
Yeah.
Nath Cleary doesn't, and the Penrith Panthers don't.
No,
Melbourne never used to.
Yep.
They could care less if the right scores 4 tries in one game, because there might be some joy on the left the following week. That's the way good teams think. And he just kept on at it. Like, he knew Strinky was having an awful night. Even when Drinky started catching him at the start of the second half, he didn't go, all right, I better go away from that now because he's sweet. He still kept at it. And they got some joy as well at the back end of the game. So
I thought the Broncos changed their style up a little bit without Reece Walsh at the back. I thought that they weren't as expansive as they usually are without Reece Walsh at the back. Which I actually find that's promising for me, because it says like it seems like a very self-aware team that is going, the style of footy we play with Reece Walsh is so unique to him. Let's not pretend like that's who we are without him. But I feel like sometimes teams, they lose players and they go, oh, we're going to play the way, that's how we play, so we're just going to play like that all the time. I think it's pretty smart by them being honest with themselves and going, guys, like, Reece Walsh is a 1 in a million. Like, we're not going to be getting that.
Sometimes I think there's luck involved in that, because Walshy's still young in his rugby league career and he's still learning to play as a player, but I always compare him and Drinky. They're the sorts of players that will back themselves no matter what. And that's the problem with what happened with the Cowboys. They refused to play wet weather footy. They thought, we're throwing the ball around. They were having some relative joy down edges, making some half breaks and not being able to ice them at the end, scored. So they weren't completely out of it in the first half. They felt like we're going to play Cowboys footy, and they wouldn't. There's a part of me that thinks Walsh would have had the same mindset.
Probably.
You know what I mean?
Probably.
He would have just kept on going and going, look, and we might drop a couple, or I might make a few errors, but I'm still going to put 2 on and score 1 myself. So it almost suited Tristan Saylor more than the game conditions suited Reece Walsh. But who's to know? That's just might
have been a one-off.
That's a hypothetical. That's a guess based off, sort of the style of players they are. But I think that game in particular suited Saylor, who's trying to be super clean, trying to look good for potentially other clubs.
I liked it from Saylor too, because he had, like, in his times of playing in trial matches, but also last year when he played, he had quite a few errors. So I really like the fact that he just reined it in a little bit, because, like, there's only one Reece Walsh. Like, he can make fucking literally 5 errors, but the things that he gets done in those 5 errors outside of that aren't errors are just, like, so crazy that you go, okay, you know what? Whereas very few fullbacks can go, 5 errors and it be a good game for him. So I like that from Salah. With Storm, what do you think the Storm are? Do you think, because, like, Big Nelson hasn't played yet?
Yeah.
He hasn't played yet. Now, the club is said that it's because he's had a hammy injury and it's been a slow process to get back. He'll be playing reserve grade this week.
Yep.
Are you big on the Storm? Do you think that, I'll put it this way, I think that this side with Nelson back in it is a premiership threat. Without Nelson, I think they're short just one big man.
I agree with everything you just said, but this is why I love the Storm.
Yeah.
The Storm have a culture there. They have accountability. This is why it's gone for 25 or whatever, how many years he's been there, Craig Bellamy, because whatever's happened with Nelson, whether it's, coming back in, overweight or they had conversations, and there's so much stuff that's been rumoured around it, but just purely from an outsider looking in, Nelson is well and truly part of their best 17, but they have standards there. And if they aren't being met, again, it's all speculation, but if they aren't being met, it keeps everyone accountable. It keeps everyone's like, no one's bigger than the club, no one's bigger than the jersey. And I'm going to back Nelson to get back into the team because he's been around long enough to know that,
he helps set some of those standards.
Yeah, really. For sure, especially with those big boys. And I believe the competition, it's there. It's like Storm will feel like this is a year that they can have a decent crack at it. I feel like the last couple of years they've maybe looked at Penrith and gone, it's just too big of a jump, and they've sort of that's been the hurdle they haven't been able to get over. But they'll give themselves a better chance, especially if he can get back in the team. And there's some young ascending forwards that I like out there. I like Joe Chan. I know he's missed the last couple of games, but his first 2 games look really good.
Yep.
I like Liero in the middle. There's a lot to like about this team.
Yeah, Liero in the middle is good. He just, especially against the Knights, less is more. I think he took a lot of responsibility on his shoulders because there were so many players out thinking that he needed to do a lot.
Yep.
But I agree with you. I like Lioro. I know that there's been some fans that have been a bit off Lioro. I'm surprised at that. I think at the very least, his first 2 games I thought were quite good. So I like the fact that, because they had King at 13 last year, and I just don't think he's a 13. I think he's an up and down front rower, and now he's obviously been moved in the front row. And so Lioro may not necessarily be the best ball player at 13, but he's just better laterally. Yeah. And I just think you need that lateral movement from your 13 these days.
He's got a bit of yo about him. Like, he's not at obviously Yo's level, but he's got movements of Yoey. He can get quick. He can get behind. He's got the leg speed to get behind the ruck. And you don't have to be the best ball player, but you just have to give clean service. And big part of what you said, don't overdo it. Because you get into that role and you start watching Yo's, you start watching Cam Murray's, Victor Radley's, and that's what the elite locks do at a really high clip. But don't overcomplicate it. Work your ass off, become a toiler, add a little bit each year, because Yoey is now one of the best locks in the game at that. But you remember he started in the centres, back row, was a toiler to begin with. And
he even struggled with passing too much, I think, midway through last year, where he was just a bit unsure whether to ball play or run. I think he's found the perfect balance now, Yoey. Perfect balance now. Don't forget, Grilled, every time your team wins, you get a free grilled burger the Monday after the game. Head to the link in the show notes and follow the prompts, which include picking your footy team and signing up to Grilled loyalty program called Relish. Then, when your team wins, you get a 2-for-1 burger voucher to use the following Monday. Doggies versus Roosters. That's tomorrow at 6 p.m. New South Wales time. Curran is tipped to spend some time in the back row and lock with young gun Katonga, named on the bench following an injury to Preston. He's broken his jaw. Roosters' Angus Crichton starts in place of Tupanua. Lindsay Collins returns with a hammy. Geez, that's a quick turnaround. How do you see this one playing out?
Yeah, Roosters. Yeah, Roosters comfortably. They've couple of the toilers through the middle that have been really good. Preston's been... I feel sorry for Preston. I can't believe he come back onto the field in that South Sydney game.
Craziness.
Broken jaw, so he's going to miss a couple of weeks. And even, I don't know how he passed his HIA to begin with, let alone the jaw. The back rower, Moran, he's just a guy that's just all effort for the club too. Yeah. So I like Angus Crichton back in the back row for the Roosters. He deserves that. He's shown glimpses at the back end of the season, and he looked super keen in last week's game.
Yep.
So he'll give him some punch. But there is the biggest question marks at the moment seem to be around the halves and the pressure building around the Keary-Walker combination. That still hasn't solidified anything yet.
Yep.
So we'll see how this is a good opportunity for the Roosters to get some confidence and realistically, depending on weather tomorrow and how much it rains, if they can play some footy, they can really do a number on the Dogs, I think.
Yeah. A big game for the Roosters because they had basically really good game. They beat the Broncos. Then they have really good round 2, I think. Then they lose to the Manly Seagulls. Then they towel up the Rabbitohs. And then last week, what was it last week?
Panthers.
Panthers.
Panthers
last week. Yeah, so Panthers last week. And so it's like, you go, okay, so Rabbitohs aren't who we think they are. You go, Manly dominated us.
Yeah.
Broncos, good win. And so it's like, they're like, because it's been so up and down this year with like favourites and...
We're going to do this for every game, Kempy, I guarantee it. The form lines are so out of whack that it's hard to get a read on anyone, but Penrith and probably Melbourne.
I think Penrith are head and shoulders above everyone.
Distant
else
second
right
everyone
now.
else.
And
I
then,
agree.
And then probably Melbourne, I'd say.
Yeah.
And then you go look at Manly and you're like, well, the wheels are wobbling a little bit, and you're going, all right. So, like, for example, Roosters, you could sit here and go, yeah, they're a premiership threat, but then you go, well, hang on a sec, their halves even aren't sure yet. Like, you're not even sure whether that's going to be the halves pairing at the end of the year. And so I just think they need to just put together, hopefully, 2 to 3 just good, solid performances to really cement themselves as, we are a premiership threat. And I think, like, no disrespect to the Doggies at all, but this is the perfect game to just build a foundation off for the next month of rugby league for the Roosters.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm backing them to get the win. I agree with you. My questions are not necessarily around Keary and Walker individually. It's just that combo. I've just never, at the moment, and I think it's been about 35 games, or we'll say 40. I've never watched it and gone, there's the Rooster style of footy.
Yeah, well, we said this before in the round 0 preview, or was it review, or whatever it may have been, preview or review, whatever it was, and it stuck with me as well. I haven't left the Roosters game going, Walker and Keary put on a clinic together.
Yeah,
And
either one or the other.
Yeah, it's one or the other had a good game. The other one was sort of, let the other one play and had some joy. Whereas when you look at some of the other playmakers in unison with each other, and
You look at Sandon Smith and Walker when they played Rabbitohs.
they look really good, didn't
Clinic.
they? So now that's where the pressure's coming from, obviously, because Sandon Smith was so good before getting injured, and him being available on that bench spot. So it's a big couple of weeks for Kez.
Yeah.
Luke
huge.
Keary.
And
37 games together.
37 games, yeah. So it's not heaps, but at the same time, it's surely
enough.
enough to know, okay, this is working, this is not working. I mean, it's close-ish to 2 full seasons
Yeah,
together.
it's enough.
Especially with the experience they've got.
And the team the experience and team they got around them. Like, there's no excuses for them for me.
Not anymore. Not anymore. I was very, very forgiving maybe 2 years ago for the Roosters with all the injuries that they had.
Yep.
But heading into this season, even last season, like, I know that they finished really strongly, and we all kind of went, oh well, But when you actually look at the season, like, that was an extremely disappointing season.
Yeah.
And I think this year is the same situation. Like, there's no, if they go on a crazy late run and just squeeze into the 8 and do the same thing as they did last year, it's like, that's not good enough for the Roosters.
Who have they got in the next couple of weeks? So I'm looking at it now. Get it up. So they've obviously got the Bulldogs. They can get a dub there. They've got the Knights at Newcastle and then Storm. So
That's Storm.
they've got to beat. For me, they've got to beat the Bulldogs and Knights convincingly the next couple of weeks.
Yeah,
to
to
get
really
some rhythm.
cement
For Walker and Keary to put on a show together.
Yeah.
But yeah, depending like the weather tomorrow. If it's pissing down with rain like it's supposed to, then you're probably not going to see the best of those two. It's going to be a Cheese Victor Radley game.
Yeah.
And Lindsay Collins and Hargraves. That's the style of footy that they're going to have to play. So we're probably not going to see it tomorrow.
And I wonder if they play Collins if it is quite wet with that hammy.
It could help him actually slow down the game a little bit.
Just that extra load on the hammy though with the thick ground.
Yep.
I wonder whether they pull. Anyway, we'll see what happens. Doggies. What are your thoughts on doggies? Where do you think that is the biggest question for them?
Oh, just forwards. Yeah, middle. So this is why I'm very heavily on the Roosters, just because through the middle it's a clear mismatch. They've got some guys that have been having a crack. That's the one thing you can't knock the Dogs this year.
Yeah.
They've been ripping in, and they fell away late at the back end of the Cronulla and Parramatta game to begin with. They got a good result against the Titans because they worked hard for that at the start of the game, and they were in it. Like, Souths had to complete at 95% to beat them by a try.
Oh,
Yeah. So they're having a crack.
Yeah.
They're just undersized, and they've got stopgap answers at crucial positions. And I like Hutchinson as a filling guy. I don't like him as a long-term solution.
Are you a Sexton man then? Do you think Sexton?
Same Sexton or Hutchinson are my backup halves.
Okay.
I'm feeling good. They're good, solid journeyman guys that I know can do a job for 4 to 8 weeks if my star was to go down. Like, just say Mitchy Moses goes down for Parramatta and you got Hutchinson or Sexton there to fill in. Yeah, sweet. We can deal with that and try make it work for a few weeks. But they can't be the answers for me. And then obviously another guy's been trying and both like Hutchinson's been trying his backside off too. Yeah. And same as Taff at the fullback position. But the key positions in this day and age, and for me, they're more just really good backups.
Yeah. Do you reckon Sexton could grow into one, being relatively young?
I watched the New South Wales Cup game because I called that for SEN, and I watched him closely in that game. He does some nice things. I've watched Sexton now for a couple of years, whether it be at the Titans in particular, and then some games at the Bulldogs where you're like, there's some nice moments in there. He's probably got more of a ceiling at this point in his career than what Hutchinson does. So it might be worth having a crack. I think the big thing is defensively for him, and because of how hard or how much of an emphasis Serraldo and the Bulldogs have put on defence.
Yeah, okay.
At this point of where they are, if they're not scoring points, then they want to defend really well.
Yeah.
And that's where it's probably...
Hacho gets the jump on him.
Yeah, he's got a bigger body. He gets his body in front a little bit better than what Sexton does. So maybe that's the thought process behind it.
Yeah. Now, onto the Knights versus the Dragons. Gagai is out with the medical condition. Expected to return... he's expected to return, Gagai's. With Jaden Brayley, will start at hooker after being eased back from injury via interchange over the past fortnight. Dragons, Eisenhuth is again named to start at lock, but could revert back to the bench as per last week with DeBellin, an option to shift from the group from prop. Molo replaces Sele on the bench alongside Blake Laurie. What do you got, Knights v Dragons?
I got Dragons.
Wow.
Yeah, I got Dragons. Good effort from the Knights last week. I thought actually they were really impressive, the Knights against the Warriors. It was a tough physical game. They played basically between the 20s.
Yep.
Ball was in play for a lot, and both teams were really physical.
I think Warriors as well, they are a top tier side right now. So to go down by a try or so, 8 points or 6 points?
Yeah, and they kept on fighting all the way to the end.
It's that's kind of where they're at right now, if you know what I mean. And it's away as well.
I've got, for the Knights, they've made changes on 2 occasions now. Obviously, Hastings gets put back to New South Wales Cup. Now he's back in. Gamble's the one that misses out now. I'm looking at this team and I feel like KP's a guy that feels the pressure a little bit at this club, and he's obviously the main player. He's got paid accordingly. There he is. He looks the grouse always.
He's getting hotter, man.
He's hot.
He's
so hot.
It's just something. I don't know what it is, but he's the George Clooney, but he's still young. You know?
Yeah. It's the personality. Look,
the
you can look hot, but if
is it the little tattoos? You reckon? Maybe every tattoo that he puts on, he gets a little bit hotter.
It gets a little bit hotter. Look, 5% hotter.
They should make a fairy tale about that. Kind of like Cinderella with his shoes, but it's a tattooed bloke just getting hotter with each tattoo. But he gets to the point where his whole body's covered, and now he's ugly.
Yeah.
And so he has to make the hard decision: do I go back to my normal self looks and lose the tattoos? And then the message of the movie is just be happy in your own skin.
Yeah, there you go. That sounds like that's a beautiful Disney movie.
That one's
for our kids. We can produce that for our kids.
I like that.
I feel like he's a guy that feels the weight of expectation with this club and the results. I like what I saw in the trials from Will Price, and I've watched Will Price closely now for a couple of seasons because I watched a lot of Super League. Yep. Feel like he needs just some X factor that can make something happen in this team outside of him.
KP needs a little bit of help with that.
A little bit of help, a little bit of X factor that I think I watched Hastings games with him in New South Wales Cup, and they connected really well together.
What about Price's defence?
It's something that you've got to account for, and I haven't seen enough of it week in, week out I've more sort of seen his highlights and what he can do with the footy, and that's a big part of the game. But with Dom Young and Marzu last year, as good as they were as just sort of wingers, they had X factor in the way that they finished stuff for him. Yeah. So for me, it felt like KP knew that in moments it wasn't all about him getting down there. He knew he could just throw it to Marzu or Dom Young, and they could make something happen in a 20-metre period where they step, off their right or left wing or whatever it may be, and make something happen. I don't feel like there's anyone in that team like that at the moment outside of him. So obviously Dom Young's gone, and it looks like he's going to be outstanding for the Roosters. Marzu got targeted in his first few games. It felt like teams really went after him because they understood that he was the sort of last.
It's almost their Toto.
He was their Toto, so you do a number on him, and it worked really well for the teams that played him. They're missing a little spark, and I feel like maybe
Bradman Best needs to maybe step up a little bit and create.
Bradman Best was good last week. Him and Nari Tuala were good, but it was more of a tradesman type performance from them. I think the Jackson Hastings Will Price combination could work because again, like if you look at a guy like Hastings, he's not the sort of guy that's going to create a whole heap a lot, but he keeps everything sort of in place. And then KP can play on one side, and then Will Price can add something. I don't know. It's something that I don't think they've completely settled on their on their spine, and I think it's probably going to change in the next couple of weeks, and specifically if the Dragons end up beating them, like I think they are.
So what do you think about the Dragons then?
Yeah, I like the Dragons. Like, they play a physical brand of footy. Again, the form line's very hard to read because they've had a couple of stinkers mixed in with a couple of really good physical performances. But I think they match up really well with the Knights. I think, across the board, they've got some physical bodies. If I'm going back to the weather again. I think weather footy suits the Dragons better than it suits the Knights if it does end up raining. They want to play no nonsense. Benny Hunt will sort of kick them to corners, and they'll be happy to win a game like that. Whereas I think Knights, judging by the decisions, they're not happy with their attack, and they could get caught in the trap of trying to play too much footy.
Yeah, okay. Because, especially round one, they were just going edge to edge.
Yep.
And it was kind of like, this isn't, this is finals footy. You've got to build into this kind of footy. You've got to, get to the end of the season, have so many reps under your belt to get to a point where you're just nailing all that edge-to-edge stuff. With the Knights, I just want to see that forward pack just some steel, just some aggression. Because I thought that was their biggest strong suit, almost their most underrated part. Obviously all the focus was on KP, and rightly so. But one of their most underrated part last year is their forward pack was gritty, tough. I think Frizzell's been outstanding this year so far.
Yep.
Good to get Leo Thompson back. He didn't play last week, did he? He's really important to him now. He's now starting at 10.
He's the one that really emerged last year, didn't he?
Yeah, so good.
He was the difference in the middle that sort of gave him that steal through the middle.
Honestly reminds me a bit of Fisher Harris, the way he plays. I'm going to go the Knights at home. I think that they're desperate to get their season on track, because if they lose this match, it's all of a sudden, it's basically you get in the panic stations we are nowhere near. Because I'm assuming the Knights went into this year with a top 4 goal. Last year, internally.
Yep.
I'm assuming that they went in there going, guys, we can make the top 4 this year.
For sure they would have felt good. You know what they remind me of? The Cowboys the year before.
Yeah, okay.
Where they just might have assumed that they were travelling at the back end of the season the year before. Cowboys tried to play the same footy at the start of the season that they were playing at the end of the 2020 season, and it just didn't
work.
Pan out that way. They had injuries and little different things that accounted for a rough start to the year, and then they tried to chase their tail, but it was too late.
Now, on to the before we get into it, though, LDV T60 Power Play of the Week was Tommy Dearden for his ridiculous chase on Selwyn Cobbo. The LDV T60 has 160 kilowatts of grunt, which makes it one of the most powerful utes in its class. South v Warriors, Rabbitohs, Shaq Mitchell, he's out. Kepi returning to the side. Ilias and Jai Gray are both named as reserve but aren't expected to feature following South Sydney's Good Friday win over the Bulldogs, with Hawkins likely to start at halfback for third straight game. The Warriors are confident Wateni Zelezniak will play despite the veteran training away from the main group on Wednesday as he deals with a leg injury that's also impacting his back. Andrew Webster has hinted that Chanel Harris-Tavita could yet join the bench from the reserves. Charles Nickel-Klukstad hamstring returns, but Andrew Webster's side will be without several big names in Metcalf, Catewell and Walker. Can't wait to see CNK back. Cannot wait to see CNK back. How do you see this game playing out?
Yeah, the Warriors look good, mate. What about the players that they lose and the players that they bring in? They've got a strong squad this year. They're going to be thereabouts. They've got a pretty good form line, like the Storm and probably the Panthers to start the year. But to lose Capewell but then bring in Niokota, to lose Metcalf but bring in Tamati Martin. And I was surprised to see Chanel Harris-Tavita, who filled in nicely on last week, be in the 21 jersey, but obviously Freddie Lussick goes back to the bench in that game as well.
Yeah, I think because there was some speculation that Chanel would even get the starting jersey.
Yeah,
but maybe he sees him more as a utility that can play multiple positions. But so he sees him as a utility that can play a lot of positions, but with Freddie Lussick coming back onto the bench, maybe that's less important than having a 2-hooker rotation, potentially.
Yeah.
Because Egan, he plays a lot of footy, but he does go down quite a lot. And so maybe he thinks it's more likely more important for Egan to have coverage than it is to have Harris-Tavita on the bench. Because I agree with you. I thought Harris-Tavita was great. I really did. I thought it was great last week. With the Warriors, what I love about the Warriors' start to the season is just the level of footy they've played. Again, I know they started the year 0-2, but every game they've played this year, they haven't been bad. Have they been great at every minute? No, of course not. They haven't won every game. But I haven't seen 10 minutes of footy from the Warriors that I've gone, that's absolutely like terrible. Like obviously you've seen bad mistakes and whatever, but I haven't seen a passage of footy where I've gone, what is going on there? Like that's really, really poor. I've seen average footy for 10 minutes, but definitely not bad footy from the Warriors. I really like what I'm seeing there. And the exciting thing about the Warriors is like, imagine what Andrew Webster's going to be able to do in the recruitment market if they go well again. Because there are a lot of people that are going to, a lot of young players are going to look across the Warriors and go, man, I want to be a part of that vibe. Like the vibe of the whole country getting behind us, sellouts every single week. There is a certain swagger and coolness about the Warriors at the moment. So I think it's incredibly exciting time for the Warriors. With the Rabbitohs, I mean, they need a big win desperately.
Yeah, I'm concerned about the Rabbitohs already. Like I was waiting for a bounce back in the Roosters game that didn't happen, and then sort of disappointed in the way that they didn't finish off the Bulldogs last week. Considering all the possession they had, watching it live, it looked like both teams would try not to lose the game rather than win the game. So, yeah, and I don't think Dean Hawkins is the long-term answer for him as well at halfback. I think he's I think Lockie Elias is a better half than him at this point as well. And now it's hard because he's played a lot of New South Wales Cup, but I haven't been impressed by the Rabbitohs. This is one of those games where it seems obvious, the Warriors, that somehow Rabbitohs come out and do something that you didn't see coming, just like this competition has done this year, and they smack you in the face, and we all go, oh, now we start questioning the Warriors, and the Rabbitohs are suddenly back. Like that's got the feeling of it, but I've got to go with my gut instinct and say the Warriors.
I just haven't seen enough from the Rabbitohs to be confident that they're going to come out and bounce back. I agree with you. Like, I feel like with the Rabbitohs, I've been waiting since round 11 last year for them to have this crazy bounce back game where I've gone, okay, there we go. There's that round 1 to 10 Rabbitohs that we saw in 2023. I haven't seen the 80 minutes do that. And again, it's not even the result. Just a performance that looks like there's high energy, hyper aggression. I just haven't seen it, unfortunately.
Haven't won back-to-back games since then.
Well, there you go. With South, like, what's the way out of it, do you think? Like, is it... Because, like, now we're getting into maybe even, like, 12 months. Like, well, I know we're only at round 5, but it's about round 10 last year where this all seemed to have gone wrong.
Yep.
And so a lot of people go, oh, well, it's only round 5 and there's a long season. The problem I have with that is like, this has been... since round 10 last year. Like if we're being fair dinkum, like it's been since round 10 last year. This is a side that should be challenging for a premiership. What do you reckon is the way out?
It's tough. It might. They've definitely got the roster, so that's the problem. Like when you look at some other teams that are in the position that they're in, and the position on the ladder that they are, you can look at it and go, "There's holes there." Specifically, the core positions, like. When I look at my core positions, and I said this before on the show, but if you've missed it, like one, either a 6 and a 7, a premier front row, which is probably another place that they could do a little bit better at. But Tom Burgess was good starting on the weekend, I thought. But they got Locke, they got dummy half.
Vitola should be, he's shown evidence of a good top 2 front row.
I thought he was really ascending. Probably before they sort of went on this run.
He won South Player of the Year in 2022.
Yeah, there you go.
So he's shown
And there will be a lot of clubs, coaches looking at that roster and be jealous of the roster that they've got. But,
Origin 9, Origin 6, Origin 1, Origin front, like Totola, you could consider at his best is at Origin level.
Origin centre, Origin back rower.
Tom Burgess, he's Origin level at his best.
International front rower.
Yep. So it's like, you got Tyrone Munro, one of the best young players coming through.
Yep.
Tallis Duncan, for some reason... Like, I think he's one of the best young players coming through, but it doesn't look like he's getting as many minutes as I assume he would have gotten.
Yeah, and again, he didn't look good in those minutes. We were the same. Like, going into the season, I was like, why isn't Tallis Duncan a part of their best 17? But that just speaks volumes across the board. Like, when you've got young players who you expect to take the leap or have shown glimpses and they're not quite living up to it.
Well, look at the Tigers.
Yeah.
Like, the Tigers, their roster's nowhere near as the Rabbitohs. Not nowhere near, but it's not as good as the Rabbitohs. But
I would say nowhere near.
Yeah,
it's nowhere near the Tigers.
And they're bloody. They're what 3 from 4. I know they had the bye.
Yep.
But they're still. Put it this way: when you watch the Tigers, you go, they're having a red hot crack. Like it looks like a club that's all on the same page.
Yeah, and there's more hope there too.
Yeah.
Like when you've got established players that aren't performing, that's probably the opposite. Like where you're going, they should be better. That's where more pressure comes. Once more pressure comes, that's when you can see the reports that have happened in the last 12 months. You start seeing potential in-house fighting, not between players, more so between staff, which led to Sam Burgess coaching Warrington right now and doing a good job over there.
And they're actually on top of the table.
And that builds pressure.
Yeah.
So not only is he would Demetrio be feeling the pressure, but here by not getting the results. But everyone's quick to point out how good Sam's doing in the Super League. By the way, he's like Russell Crowe's adopted son, and that family. And everyone knows how much everyone at South Sydney adores Sam Burgess. So mate, it's tough. It's not easy. But that's what you get. You're paid accordingly, just like players when pressure. When you start to feel the pressure, it's it happens at all levels. Where the administration, and in this case, it's probably the person under the most pressure at the club is well and truly Demetrio. So I don't even necessarily for them to just take the pressure off. And Matty, you can probably speak on this more so. Do you even need to see a victory against the Warriors, or do you just want to see them have a crack and go toe to toe with one of the better teams in the last 12 months and 5 weeks who can get into an arm wrestle and win a game like that way?
That's pretty much exactly right. I obviously would love a W and need a W, but even against the Bulldogs, I felt that besides Cam Murray, there was no real quick play the balls. There was no real go forward. I just want to see some of the... I know the Warriors are a significantly better pack, so it's a monumental task, but I want to see more effort areas around that sort of things.
It sounds like so cliche, but I just want to see energy. I want to see blokes flying out of the line. Even if they miss the tackle, just give me something that says you're feeling the pressure.
You know what I miss? I miss Dirty Trell. You know what I mean by that? When Trell was like so pumped up, he was like knocking people.
Pushing people's heads down, all that kind of stuff.
You can tell he's sort of feeling the pump or feeling the pressure. He's helping. I've seen him helping people up. There's a part of me that loves that villain side of Trell. Like when Trell's doing that shit, like for me, he's on. Yeah. And Cody Walker's chirping people and not angry and competitive. It's because like they're travelling at the moment. They both look deflated, and that's basically how the entire team looks. The one person that you can never doubt in any of the games to start the season, and I felt sorry for him watching him live, is just how much work he does is Cam Murray. The skipper's just going to keep doing that.
Mate, I hate to say this, and I know this will upset Rabbitohs fans, and I've got literally number one Rabbitohs fans right there. That bloke deserves a premiership. And I would say the same thing. So when Payne Haas, when there was rumblings that he, may want to go to a side to win a comp and all that kind of stuff, what did I say then? I said he deserves it. Even though that stings me to say, even though I felt like Broncos were on the up, there are certain players in squads that work their absolute hearts out every week, and there might be a handful of them in the NRL where you go, whatever that bloke needs to do to win a premiership, he needs to do that. And I'm not sitting here going, he's a captain of the club, he's got a long-term contract. I'm just saying that he deserves to win a premiership, and the club should be doing everything they can to make that happen. Otherwise, he deserves to go somewhere else and do it eventually, not like right now, whatever. As the number one Rabbitohs fan, tell me what you think about that.
I actually think a lot of South, from what I read online, from talking to people, I think a lot of South fans agree with that. Obviously, no one wants Cam Murray to go anywhere. I mean, obviously, he's our captain, he's one of our most important players. But after that Roosters loss and after the Broncos loss, I've said it, I'm like, he deserves better than this. This is madness. And if he doesn't finish his career with a premiership, it would be an absolute travesty.
You know who he is? He's the modern day Hindy.
Oh, mate, there you go.
Had success early, made a grand final. I feel sorry for Hindy too, because I played with him at the back end.
Mate, he's a GOAT. He's one of the best ever.
We had rough seasons when I debuted at Parramatta, and I used to feel that because he was a legend of the club. He was a one club man. Similar thing, played a little bit of edge to begin with, moves in the middle, just tackles his ass off. They give him a little bit of stick on that show because it works for the dynamics with him and Fletch. But I think a lot of the younger generation don't realise he was Cam Murray before Cam Murray.
Absolutely.
He did everything. He was the workhorse. He was a gun. He was one of the most likeable players. Yep. He won that and I was going to say shitty award because I feel sorry because like he used to get frustrated because it was whatever was like the most liked player in the competition.
Yeah.
He used to, like, by the end of it, we used to take the mickey, like, well, not me because I was too young, but like it was sort of taking the mickey out of him because everyone loved Hindy so much and was like, fuck, would love to get him a premiership.
Yeah.
Now it's a running joke on Fox and it works for him and they use it well, but he's very Cam Murray. If Cam Murray doesn't get a premiership, I'll feel the same the way I do about Cam Murray as I do about Hindy.
I think it makes it worse as well that how much Cam Murray loves South. Like he grew up, he's a South junior. I used to go to games with Cam Murray. Like he adores South, and I think that actually makes it a little bit worse as well.
It's similar, like, you know, and when that whole Haas situation happened, but Haas is in the same boat. That bloke, if he doesn't win a premiership, it's a travesty.
Yeah, that
like
is,
it's an actual travesty. And as I said, so if Broncos can't deliver that, as a fan of Haas and everything, because like a lot of, I get it, and I'm biased of it as well, but you get so selfish about your team, you forget, hang on a sec, look how much he's given the team. Like, look how well he has played for so long. And you get so caught up in, well, you know, like you're playing for the Broncos and you should have this and you should have that, and so you need to stay and get the Broncos this. But it's like, but at what point does Haas go, well, what about what I deserve? Like, rather than what the club kind of deserves. So, and look, it's coming from a place of the Broncos are in a better spot right now, so very easy for me to say. But if you do recall, you can go back and check the tape. I was very much like, if he was to go somewhere else and he wants the big money, he should take it, and he does deserve a premiership. And also, he's through the darkest days, Haas was the man. Like he was carrying the side.
On both occasions, like both Cam Murray and Payne Haas, during those periods where they haven't been great, they've got all the, like, you wouldn't knock them at all for them to get frustrated and start pointing the finger and blaming teammates. Not only do you not hear it, you never even see it on the field. So like during that period, I was like, why doesn't Payne Haas get the shits at everyone in his team during that period? And same as Cam, like I'm watching on the field, he doesn't like, he's just not that, they're not so that, if it's not in their personality, you can't force it as well, but you would understand it if they were to feel like that.
Absolutely. So huge game for the Rabbitohs. I tell you what it can do though, like we're talking about glass half empty. Glass half full, they go out there and put on a clinic. I tell you what, the pressure just goes like off the shoulders. Yes, it does it. Are the Rabbitohs back? No, it's not. It's just one game. But I tell you what, those headlines, they get put on pause for at least 7 days. You've got 7 days of like, okay, boys, we're good here. Let's fucking go. I actually think this might be matches around the Rabbitohs.
If they win in the fashion that they won against the Dogs, then it's a really good performance.
Yeah,
but they shouldn't win like that way against the Dogs, considering where the Dogs are right now.
Yep, agreed. Dolphins, Tigers. Mate, Dolphins are top of the table. Tigers come at 6.
You missed Manly.
Oh, sorry,
Panthers.
Apologies. Manly Panthers.
You can't miss the bird game.
Oh, my bad. My bad.
That's the only reason I come on the show is to talk about a famous Manly victory in place of the boys.
Oh, I was feeling so happy there for a bit. I had no Manly rhetoric.
Just because you got rid of Tom and Eddie doesn't mean we're not going to talk about Manly.
Life was good for a fucking hour on a Thursday. Now it's shit again.
Well, you got sick of and it's the Panthers too, so that's understandable. Considering
I think we all know, guys. We all know what's going to happen. So let's go. No, I'm joking. We talked about glass half full approaches to things, but Manly, huge opportunity. Like, I'm not saying their season is derailed, but I do feel there's a bit of wobbles going on at the moment where we're going, look, they came out the blocks red hot going, this team is a premiership threat. The last 2 games, as a fan of the game, you watch Manly going, I hope, let's just fucking get back to what we knew we were doing really well at the start of the season, and there's no better team to. It doesn't necessarily mean they need to win, but if they go out there and fucking rip and tear against the Panthers side with Fisher Harris returning, that's good enough for me with the Manly side. Yeah,
Manly for me are very similar to the Cowboys. Feel like they can score on anyone.
Yeah,
I just haven't seen evidence in the last couple of years where they can get into a grind with teams and try to win that way.
Yeah,
and I'm exactly the same. I feel the same. I don't necessarily need to see a victory for Manly in this game, but remember last year I was explaining this, Matty, just before we jumped on the show. Remember when they tried to kick on the first on a couple of times against Penrith, and it was working to a degree. Yeah. They got off to a bit of a lead, and Penrith treated them.
I just remember the Schuster kick.
Like it was willy-nilly that game, and they just went basically.
They nearly did it though.
They basically said we're not going to beat them by getting an arm wrestle. So let's try. Yeah, and I don't like it. I don't like the mindset.
Because the Tigers did.
Because you're not going to be able to get them at the back end when it matters. Now, that was without Tommy Trbojevic and a few players by that point of their careers. I think I've seen an emergence from Olaquatu, from a player of potential now to one of the elite players at his position.
Yep.
Daly's always going to be Daly. with Tom back, it takes more pressure off Jakey. I don't feel he has as much anxiety around his game. And there are some players that are developing, going sort of now in the Olukwatu stage where like high potential like Kohler. So there are some nice pieces there. I want to see him get an arm wrestle and go toe-to-toe with Penrith. And
how crazy
I know they can score points. I know they can.
How crazy is it Penrith are missing Cleary and we're like,
yeah, they're still favourites. And they deserve to be.
Mental.
At Manly, F4 Pines. So, I want to see Manly get into that game. I like a few pieces that could be returning. Matt Lodge looks like he's not too far away. I think he could be a piece. And I want to see Shuey back in the team. I want him to, he's got a bit of a kick up the backside. He's been playing big minutes, I believe, in New South Wales Cup. I want him to keep working hard in New South Wales Cup, getting those minutes under his belt, because I think he can be a genuine X factor for 25, 30 minutes a game.
Yeah.
Like with the way this team's looking and the way the pack's constructed and the way I like some of the emerging outside backs, a guy that can come on and play 20 to 25 minutes, maybe even 30 max, with his skill set at the back end of halves, at the start of the first half, and then get him off because you want, protect the lead, then that's where I think he can have an impact for the team. And Panthers are Panthers. Fuck.
Yeah, like what else is there to say about this team?
Yeah.
Seriously.
You almost got to kick on the first tackle, don't you?
Seriously. Look, I think this is a really good opportunity for Manly to just reassert, okay, boys, we're flying, we're all good, everything's sweet. Dolphins, Tigers. Dolphins sitting first, Tigers sitting sixth. Who would have thought Dolphins, Tigers would be a top 8 clash? I know it's only round 5, but it's still a month of footy under your belt.
If Lachlan and Galvin was playing, this would be close to my game of the round that I'm excited to watch.
Yep.
Like just as a fan, like not necessarily the most talented game, but just on paper, it looks like it's going to be super competitive. Both of the forwards have been impressive. Flegler and Jesse Bromwich look really good together as a combination.
Flegler is a dog.
He's a dog. Like he's asserted himself as the dog.
Oh my God.
He's got out of the shadow now of Paddy and Payne, and
imagine having to defend him.
Oh,
just the all elbows, offloadings, footwork. Like it's honestly a cauldron of nightmare fuel.
Yeah.
Because like if you're going to defend, say, a Paddy Carrigan, he's just going to run to bend the line. So hopefully you win the first contact. Whereas Flegler, like, you've got to worry about everything.
Yeah.
Everything.
Yeah, and Wayne's given him a little, just a touch of a license to play a little bit more than what he's playing, and he's flourishing. They've got I like this game. I love what Stefano's been doing at the Tigers as well last couple of weeks.
Definitely been improving the last couple of weeks for sure.
I thought his battle with Reggie in particular was one that I was really exciting. I feel like he's got to have that same mindset against Flegler.
Yep.
Those two are going to go after each other.
Yep. Who you got? Dolphins, Tigers? I'm going Dolphins.
Dolphins.
Yep. Beer shout-outs, Royal Hotel Lagoon Street, Goondiwindi, X-Golf, Enogra, Falvey's Hotel Ipswich, Belvedere, Woody Point Bottle Shop, Eaton Hill, Harry Brown's, Blacksland Cellars, Tarrant Point Hotel, Porter's Maroubra, and Harrigan's in Cameron Park with their footy and a fade on during the Thursday night game. $30 will get you a schooner and a bloke and a haircut. A schooner, a bloke, and a haircut. So all of those people I just listed, they stock bloke beer. Cowboys, Titans. Are you as shocked as me about the Titans start to the year?
Yeah.
Where has this come from?
I didn't have them in the top 8 because I was worried about just inconsistencies. But those inconsistencies were good one week, bad the next. Like I haven't even seen a good week. That's the biggest surprise for me. Because they've got talent in their team, and as soon as Tino went down, I basically completely put a line through him. He's the heart and soul of that team. David Fafita and Jaden Campbell provide X factor, but I feel like Cowboys should because of the way they performed against the Broncos, and will do a number on the Titans at home.
Yeah, it's going to be I think it's going to be a bloodbath from the Cowboys, because I think that Peyton will be absolutely ripping them a new one. And the Titans, unfortunately for me, I see no energy, disjointed. Defensive systems looks like they've never played with each other. Sometimes you go and it's just. And I had I asked me at the start of the year biggest smoky for top 4. And Titans were my biggest smoky. Yeah. That's how excited I was with this young forward pack. Palacia, Fodawaker, Fermor, Fafita, Tino, like these are some of the best young players in the competition in the forwards, and
that's why I didn't, because they trapped me in the couple of years previous, breaking down. Like I was like, every year I've been saying that for the Titans now. It feels like for 3 years.
Burley Hill, it just swallows everyone up.
Oh, it gets you good. I can see why. I went up to Gold Coast a couple of weeks ago. It's the grouse.
Raiders versus Eels. I love this game.
Yep, this is another good game.
The battle of the forwards, just going to be hyper aggressive, up the guts kind of stuff. And what's kind of I would say even the playing field, but what I think is going to make it an even more grindy game is like Mitch Moses isn't playing, so it's like that expansiveness. Dill Brown will try to do it, but obviously he's going to take a bit to get into that role of Mitch Moses. I'm actually going Raiders here.
Yeah, so am I. It's a tough one to pick. I think both teams are going to be super disappointed with the last round. Like Eels would have expected to beat the Tigers even without Mitch Moses, and in the fashion that they went down after really being in control for long periods. Raiders, opposite, they were in control for 20 minutes, but to a point where you thought there's no way. The Sharks were gone.
They were gone.
Gone, out on their feet. And then it was a scrappy game, and then they just, what was it, 42-6 unanswered or whatever it was?
Nico Hines just went, mate, like, give me the ball.
Yeah.
Pretty much just give me the ball. And then it just changed.
So, yeah, I got Raiders in a slugfest because it's down there.
Yeah.
If it was at Parramatta, I would have gone Parramatta. But because it's at Canberra, I'm going Canberra.
When it comes to forward battles this week, this is going to be the most exciting for me. I reckon it's just going to be blow for blow, back and forth, just hyper-aggressive line speed. I cannot wait.
Yeah, I wrote a note in my Raiders game how sideways and pretty the Raiders were trying to play.
Yeah.
That I said I'm going to back the Raiders next game. Because that Sticky won't allow it.
No.
And Tarps and Josh Papali'i and even Horsburgh were like hesitant at the line and doing tip-ons between each other. Like, this ain't, what's that?
It's not Raiders footy.
It wasn't Raiders footy. They try to run over you. So I wrote a note. I said, just back Raiders next game. So,
alrighty, that is us. Make sure to subscribe to the Levels podcast on Apple, on Spotify, on YouTube. You actually have quite a big YouTube following. So everything is filmed. Going from strength to strength. Where else can they find you?
That's pretty much it. Instagram. Follow us on Instagram, TikTok, all the viral clips from the big fella. They always pump for us because he's not that opinionated at all. So.
No, not at all. And the best thing about Levels, guys, is it's very different vibe. You get good footy content, but it's very different to Bloke. So you're getting different. It's just different. So some days you might want to listen to Bloke, and some days you might want to listen to Levels. So give her a subscription. And as usual, we'll go and fuck ourselves.
Thanks for having me, brother.
Thank you.
Imagine what you could be buying instead. For free and confidential support, call the number on the screen or visit the website.